What's up, y'all? For today's video, I'm going to show you how to make this like nasty FM saw stack thing. But the reason I'm making this video is I've had a couple questions about Dariacore mixing and mastering. I'm working on finishing tracks so I can do a video on that. But for now, I want to talk about like distortion mix bus processing. It's kind of like a precursor into Dariacore mixing and mastering, but it's how you can get one sound or a set of sounds like to be the Dariacore aesthetic or whatever you might call that. So for this one, I'll just go ahead and play the clip so you know what you're getting into. And so we're going to be focusing on this hyper saw and the processing that I'm doing on it for this tutorial. Sounds like that in the first half, and then it switches to longer sustains. So let me turn my saturation bus off and we'll kind of just do each layer from scratch. So we have, and I'm not going to show the sound design on these, not because I don't want to, but I just want to keep it a shorter tutorial and talk about processing. We have the sub. It's a pretty full-bodied sub made up of a sine wave, mid layer, noise layer, right? Those two layers. They come together with like a good amount of compression on the input. And then as far as pre-saturation bus effects, we have distortion. Right, it takes that, makes it crusty. Then we have an EQ. Just making some space here and boosting some frequencies here. So then we have the mid lead. I'm not even going to go into this one. Yeah, it's too much to explain. So it's just think of it as a super FM job. We have the sub, which is FMing here. So this is FMing from the sub. There's no volume on this one, and then it's getting FM'd, or this oscillator B is what's FMing this cluster sound. So if I just turn this off, you'll kind of be able to hear. Let me turn the post effects off too. It's way different from this growly sound that we end up with. I'm sending it through distortion, a little bit of width increase right here, and then a pretty heavy OTT compression or multi-band compression. Then I'm sending that through an EQ. So ending up with that. Then we have the hardstyle layer. This one I will show some sound design stuff for because it's just a good, I think a good layering job on this one. So I have this sound. That's one of my sample pack sounds, or the glitchy bullshit. I think it's one of the glitchy bullshit hardstyle things. So then I'm taking that, pitching it up an octave, giving it an envelope here. Then sending that through an EQ that boosts the high on the transient. And then cuts all the low frequency information out. And then pretty long attack here, so that's adding to the transient. Then I send it through a wave shaper. Just kind of destroying the signal. So these three first layers together without the wave shaper. As you can see, that's why I added the wave shaper, even though it kind of destroys the nice frequencies that I started with. Just makes it a lot more present. So then we have, let me see. I think I've showed enough of these now that you kind of know what you're getting into as far as like the pre-inputs. We'll show the nasty FM, not the patch. As you can hear, it's just an FM patch, right? I think everybody, you know, probably has an idea of how to make an FM sound. As you can see, I'm just FMing one oscillator from the first oscillator. I do have, again, chorus, distortion, compression, so a little bit of width, a lot of compression. Then I'm sending that into a heavy distortion, so that gets fruity overdrive with 100x on the preamp. Just slamming the signal. A lot of noise on all of these layers here, which kind of makes the distortion bus a little more cohesive because there's so much noise in all the layers. It's not clean. It's like the Dariacore aesthetic, as it were. Really noisy, really blown out. Then I'm cutting the lows, and then finally with this little high pitch layer, just cutting the lows out. And this again is one of the sample pack sounds that I've done, and I had to add a sustain envelope on this just so it doesn't ring out. Right. So sending that into there. So let's talk about what this tutorial is about now, which is how I did the saturation bus. I'm going to go through what mine is first, and then I'll kind of like show how to do your own after that. So what we have here is first an OTT on all these sounds. Right, so kind of gluing them together. I do have some out gain pulled down, so the gain staging is a little better. So as you can hear, same sound, just a little louder and more glued together. What it sounds like it's doing here is adding some frequencies. If you look, there's like a 2 here a lot of the times. It's mostly upwards compression on the high band and not doing too much to the low and mid band. So if I turn it back up, hear how much brighter that is. So mystery solved on that one, gang. Because when I look at these after making them, I don't always know exactly what I did on the original sound design session or whatever. So that's what that one does. It makes it brighter and sharper. Self-explanatory there. I'm just boosting the mid band. Then I send it into Shapeshifter, which is an upwards. I'm not going to spend too much time on this because I know nobody's going to have this plugin, but basically this is an aberrant DSP upwards downwards compressor, which means it's the same as OTT. It boosts the signal below a certain threshold, which is set here, and it decreases the signal, so like compresses it downwards above the threshold and compresses it upwards below the threshold, right? The way I tend to use this one, my shortest thing that I can do here is I'll have the wetness all the way up, the in gain down a little bit, and I'll just get some compression settings that I'm happy with. I also love the drive knob in here and the 2 different saturations that it has. So I'll get a nice compression ratio that sounds decent, set the tone where I want it to be, and then just kind of increase the in gain till it gets really crispy. And then I like to go in and just pull the wetness down. So hopefully that's making sense there. And then you can just increase the drive. And that would be like, I would say this is not quite enough distortion or saturation at this point, but then the next thing that I add here is another aberrant plugin, and I literally just went in here and got the Chrome comp. Oh no, I didn't. So I made some alterations to this, so I can't switch to the preset there, but I can if I just hit undo. So basically I just took the Chrome comp, which is this. Let me make sure that's what I did. Saturation, Chrome comp. Yes, and just boosted the brightness and the amount of compression. This is my compressor knob here, and then the saturation's right here. Everything else is turned off basically on this. So as you can see, let's go to Chrome comp and we'll just do this to taste again. So we have Chrome comp, no saturation, Chrome comp preset, and then I just raise the brightness. And then I just raise the amount of the compression. So we got that there. And the reason I'm using this is just because it's a really nice, clean, pleasant saturation to my ear. The B is a lot stronger. So I used the A for this one. So let's say you didn't have these 2 plugins. Let's do another one of these. So like, let's say I pull a Maximus in here, go in, turn the compression off on these 3 bands, and then go in and just do an upwards downwards compression with this. So I need to play. Let me exit everything so it doesn't start audio clipping. So if I were to do this with a Maximus, so upwards compression would be, I'm raising this line. You see how there's a straight line that goes through the middle of this? Upwards compression would be raising the line higher than that line. If I go lower than the line, it's gonna push it downwards. I want it to go up, and also the what I'm doing here is dependent on where the volume is too. So it's like, I'm not gonna really explain exactly how this plugin works. Just know this is upwards compression from until basically like the line passes this point, at which point it does become downwards compression because I'm on this side of the line. So that's upwards downwards compression right there. I'm just gonna go in and change some settings. So my attack, that sounds nice and bright. I'll bring my release down a little bit. Okay, I kind of like that the best so far. So then I'm just gonna, yeah, I like that. Then I'm just gonna boost my pre-gain. So that would be something you can do. Then if we want to use the saturator in here, this is the saturation thing. So the threshold sets where we want the saturation to start. So if I pull it this direction on the left, my ceiling now says saturate while it's in the pink, clip at the pink line, right? So I'm clipping at the pink line there. I kind of prefer turning it to the right, which sets basically the threshold to add no saturation until the bottom, until it goes up through the pink line. Right, so this, if I set this here and just turn it slightly to the right, the signal's not getting saturated at all. Then once I start bringing it down, as you can see here, if I move my thing up, now it's saying clip at the top here and start saturating once it gets into the pink area. So as you can hear, that's like heavier saturation the further down I bring the threshold. I think I'm just gonna do this. And we'll call that a nice little saturation there. I might do like a little brightening into this too, like to compare to my original here. Yeah, I'll add another EQ right here. And I like that. So then let's finish this off with like a clipper. I'll do V-clip. You could just use wave shaper, so I'll do wave shaper. I don't want to like make this harder or less easy to follow along with. So I'll do a single curve 2. Boost my gain, bring my mix down. So as you can see here, like I like to follow my like heavy saturation stuff by looking at one of these, which is a vector scope. So you can really see like the corners of the shape show how hard my saturation is. I think I'm just gonna bring my preamp down. And I like that, so let's compare that to my original. This one's way louder, so I'm gonna bring the post gain down. And I might even hit it with a second soft clipper. Or almost a hard clipper here. Maybe put a EQ between those. Okay, so hopefully that's giving you an idea of how you can do your own saturation bus. I'm gonna go back to my original there. So again, like the core things I would say of it are like, don't be afraid to add EQs between your layers. Don't be afraid to do other stuff. So you could even like add choruses or width effects or like do whatever you want to do But just remember, like, compress, distort, right? Nice and simple. You don't have to even use Maximus. You don't have to use Waveshaper. You don't have to use any of the stuff I use. Just think, make it distorted, compress it, EQ it, distort it some more, EQ it, compress it, distort it, whatever. So the last thing I want to talk about before I end this tutorial is just the width bus here. So what I've done is I've sent the sub into the saturation bus. I've sent 1, 2, 3, 4 other layers. So everything that's not the sub goes into this width bus here. And I'll turn my saturation bus off and just show this bypassing that. So what the width bus is here is an EQ'd, low cut. And I could even send my sub into there. Let's hear how that sounds. It's actually kind of nice. It's a chorused copy of all my sounds together. So I'm doing like a width layer that I can then send into my saturation bus. So like, so at a certain point it does get like too wide. But you can do this with a reverb 2. So like if you were going to use, I'll do a fruity reverb 2 since I said 2. Turn your dry down. And as you can hear, something bad is happening when I have a long tail. And fruity reverb tends to always have a little bit of a tail there. So even the shortest tail that I can do is a little too wide. So let's just try using early reflections for this. So I've increased the width on that. Okay. So let's see if that does anything nice. So that sounds good right there. Basically just I'm sending a wider copy or a chorused copy or a phased copy or a dimension expanded copy of my synths into my saturation bus, which just gives me the freedom to and I don't want to bypass it. I want to send it directly into my saturation bus, which gives me the freedom to like increase the width. And I can even say, oh, it's not that wide right here. Do stuff like that with it. So that's going to do it for this one, y'all. Just one more thing to note is if you do want to do a longer reverb on this, so like let's say I wanted to send, we'll just change this into my longer reverb. If I wanted to do like a long reverb tail, don't send your reverb tail into your saturation bus, because as you can hear here, it like makes the tail so loud. Even if you shorten it. Here you'd be better off bypassing that. So that's how you can get a reverb signal past it. You probably already knew that, but with that being shown, y'all, thank you for watching. I do Patreon and give a sample pack a month away there and some other stuff. And I sell samples on Gumroad if you want to buy some of those. If you don't do that, thank you for watching. I will see you in the next one.